The month of Ramadan is a great opportunity for the soul's revival and for uniting with God. To what extent do we benefit from this opportunity? Although we live through this month of divine feast every year, Muslims, both individually and as a community, struggle to advance spiritually. There is a saying that Muslims fell behind in scientific and cultural development because they turned to spirituality. However, this statement is incorrect, as a truly spiritual civilization has yet to be built in the Muslim world. The main reason for this problem is our fragmented and unsystematic knowledge about religion. Muslims pay attention to religious rituals, try to maintain their religious values, but in an unorganized manner. Consequently, some people pride in their own and their community's religiosity, overlooking their flaws, while others become disappointed by the abundance of faults without seeing the virtues. Even if Muslims wish to uphold all religious values, they cannot do so systematically. As a result of this lack of system, even though our studies and knowledge increase and our practice of Islam strengthens, we still cannot achieve results in either material or spiritual dimensions. Because our religious knowledge and practices are like scattered beads that need to be strung together with a unifying thread. Finding this thread is essential. Otherwise, we will not understand what religion asks of us. What is the purpose of spiritual growth? Our perception of religion and religious living will remain episodic. Hazrat Ali says about this, "If the people of truth are disorganized and the people of falsehood are organized, then the victory of falsehood is from the truth, inevitable." In other words, a society's devotion to truth is not enough. Systematic application in both theory and practice is required. This raises a question. What is the highest value in Islam? Which value takes precedence, such that others may be sacrificed for it? What stands at the top of the Islamic hierarchy of values? What is the primary value for a Muslim that leads to God, systematizes our thoughts and actions, and increases their quality? The answer to this question lies in a well-known hadith. When the Prophet greeted Muslims returning from a battle, he welcomed them by saying, "Peace upon those who have completed the lesser jihad." Surprised, the companions asked what the greater jihad was. Then the Messenger of God says, "Jihad against the self, nafs." The nafs, or lower self, is the most dangerous and formidable enemy. It is an enemy that shows neither mercy nor pause. It inflicts relentless blows. The vigilance, courage, sacrifice, and determination required in the most intense battle are needed even more in the struggle against the self. Hadiths note that overcoming the self is more difficult than a person conquering a city alone. In the Quran, when Allah speaks to human about Satan and oppressors, he describes them as weak and feeble. Indeed, the scheme of Satan is ever weak. Surah An-Nisa 76. Or, the likeness of those who take protectors other than Allah is that of a spider spinning a house. Indeed, the flimsiest of houses is the house of a spider, if only they knew. Surah Al-Ankabut 41. Yet, the Quran does not use such expressions for the nafs. Look at the words spoken through the Prophet Yusuf.
وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي إِنَّ رَبِّي غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ.
The nafs al-amara is such a strong and dangerous enemy that without God's help, it would be impossible to overcome it. However, the difficulty of this task should not frighten anyone. Regardless of the outcome, anyone who enters the battlefield against their own nafs is victorious before God. A human finds value in this battlefield of struggle. In light of this, we must reflect. Why, Despite our acts of worship and efforts, do we remain spiritually stagnant? It's because we practice religion according to habit, tradition, and personal preference rather than through a conscious, systematic jihad against the self. There is no struggle against the self in our religious living. The core of our life is not the struggle against the self, although a person's value before God is measured by the struggle against the self. In the hereafter, a person's worth will not be determined by the quantity of their deeds or absence of their sins, but by their commitment to the battle against the nafs. In the afterlife, concessions will be made to those sinners who stumbled while struggling with their self. About such people, Allah says in a hadith Qudsi, "By my might and majesty, if my servant puts my will above their own will in even one matter, I will make them independent of the world, turn their attention to the hereafter, guarantee their sustenance through the earth and heavens, be their supporter, and correct their mistakes myself." What does it mean to prioritize God's will over one's own in the struggle against the self? More about this in the next episode.